They never plan to destroy what they love. That's the most haunting part. Most people assume infidelity begins with lust, boredom, or weakness, but they're wrong. It doesn't start with betrayal. It starts with a whisper, a glance, a silence that lasts just a little too long. It begins in the emptiest corner of her heart, the one she never speaks about, even to herself. That's where temptation grows, slowly, invisibly, and by the time it becomes something real, something physical, something undeniable, it's already too late. This is the part no one wants to talk about, the slow unraveling, the psychological seduction, the reason why some married women who once swore loyalty with their entire soul, end up walking a path they never imagined. This is not about blame, this is about understanding. Because if you can understand the why, you can protect yourself from the how. And that's exactly what we're about to do. Welcome to Stoic Spirit. Today, we expose the silent emotional triggers that make married women the easiest prey. Not because they're disloyal, but because they're human. And temptation, when dressed in understanding, is the most dangerous form of all. Let's start where no one ever looks, inside the emptiness. We call it the unseen void, the reason some married women start craving attention that doesn't belong to them. The irony? It has nothing to do with sex. It's not about wanting a new man, a better man, or a forbidden affair. Most of the time, it's about something far simpler and far more dangerous: feeling invisible. See, marriages don't collapse in one night. They erode in silence, slowly, the same way water carves canyons through stone, gentle, consistent, patient. In the early stages of love, everything is electric. Conversations last for hours, eyes linger, hands reach without asking, and most importantly, she feels seen, desired, chosen. But years pass, life sets in. Responsibilities replace romance. The conversations shrink into logistical exchanges. Did you pay the bill? Can you pick up the kids? Don't forget to grab milk. And somewhere in between the diapers, dishes, and debt, she starts to disappear. Not to the world, to herself. Dr. John Gottman, a relationship psychologist who spent decades studying long-term partnerships, said the death of a relationship doesn't begin with shouting. It begins with silence, not being noticed, not being heard, not being felt. And this is where the seeds of temptation are sown, because the human brain, especially the female brain, is wired for emotional intimacy. She doesn't just want to be loved, she wants to be understood. And when that understanding fades, when her husband no longer looks at her like he used to, when her beauty becomes routine, her efforts unnoticed, her subconscious begins scanning the world for something it doesn't even realize it's looking for. And it finds it, not in a grand affair, but in the simplest of moments. A stranger who holds eye contact, a coworker who laughs at her joke, a man who remembers her name and asks how her day was and actually listens. These tiny sparks, they don't feel like cheating, they feel like breathing after years of suffocation. Psychologists call this phenomenon the Coolidge effect, our innate biological craving for novelty. The paradox of stability is that it often kills excitement. And excitement, in a woman's emotional world, is more than pleasure. It's proof that she's still alive, that she still matters, that she can still make a man lean in, pause, desire. And this is where things turn dangerous, not because she intends to cross a line, but because she doesn't even see it forming. She just knows that for the first time in a long time, she feels something again. And sometimes, that feeling becomes everything. The truth is, women don't fall for other men. They fall for how they feel around them. She's not chasing a body. She's chasing a version of herself she thought was gone. The vibrant one, the spontaneous one, The version who didn't always carry grocery lists in her mind and emotional burdens on her back. And when a man reawakens that version of her, he becomes a symbol of escape. Even if he never says a word, even if all he offers is presence, eye contact, emotional curiosity, that's the gateway. That's where the betrayal begins, not physically but emotionally. And emotional affairs? Those are the most dangerous kind, because unlike physical cheating, which has clear lines and obvious boundaries, emotional cheating is disguised as friendship, as comfort, as safe. But it's not. It's a seed, and once watered with attention, validation, and emotional depth, it grows into something neither of them expected, but both secretly wanted. And the scary part, she won't even realize it's happening, not at first. But here's the question no one asks. Why doesn't she just talk to her husband? Why not fix the marriage instead of entertaining temptation? The answer is more painful than you think, because in her mind, she already did. She asked, she hinted, she changed, she waited, and eventually she gave up, not because she stopped loving him, but because she stopped loving the version of herself she had to become just to be enough for him. So when someone else sees her, really sees her, it doesn't feel like cheating, it feels like rescue, and that's what makes it dangerous. Because rescue always comes with a price. But the brain won't stop to calculate the cost. It's already started rewriting the story, already started justifying the actions, and that's exactly what we'll expose next. Because emotional betrayal doesn't happen in the heart first, it happens in the mind. And once a woman believes what she's doing is right, no logic can stop her. The next chapter is about the justification game, how her mind starts bending reality to align with her desires. She'll say it's harmless. She'll say she deserves it. She'll say it has nothing to do with her marriage. But deep down, she knows. She just doesn't want to feel guilty anymore. And the scariest part? She won't. Not after what comes next. It's not cheating if nothing physical happened, right? It's not betrayal if all she did was talk, laugh, vent, feel alive again. That's how it starts. The quiet rewriting of morality. The moment she begins comparing her intentions to her actions instead of the impact those actions have on the man waiting at home. And the brain is a master of justification when it's craving connection. It will twist facts, blur lines, reframe truths, especially when those truths hurt. See, guilt is an emotion born from contradiction when your actions violate your values. But what happens when your values start to shift? When you convince yourself that what you're doing is fair because what you're receiving isn't? That's where self-deception begins. And it's scarily logical, because she's not telling herself, I want to cheat on my husband. She's telling herself, I deserve to feel this way. I've been alone in this marriage for years. I'm not doing anything wrong. And the more she says it, the more she believes it. Especially when the man on the other end of the phone, the co-worker, the old friend, the guy who just gets her, starts echoing the same narrative. If he really loved you, you wouldn't feel this way. You deserve better. I'd never treat you like that. These aren't just compliments, they're emotional affirmations, echo chambers that reinforce the story she already wants to believe. And every time her husband forgets to compliment her, every time he falls asleep without touching her, every time he seems more interested in his phone than her feelings, her mind adds it to the evidence pile. See? This is why. And now, the emotional connection she's building with this other man doesn't feel like cheating. It feels like truth, like justice, like something she's earned. But here's what no one tells her. The moment you need to justify your connection with someone, you already know it's crossing a line. If it was innocent, it wouldn't need a defense. But the human mind hates cognitive dissonance. It cannot hold two conflicting beliefs for long without cracking. So it resolves the conflict by redefining the narrative. Instead of, "I'm doing something wrong," it becomes, "This is happening because I've been wronged." And now she's not the betrayer, she's the victim. That mental flip is what makes emotional affairs more dangerous than physical ones, because physical attraction is temporary. But emotional validation? That sticks, that rewires, that bonds. And the more emotionally invested she becomes, the more she starts hiding things from her husband, not because she's evil, but because she's ashamed. And shame doesn't breed honesty, it breeds secrecy. Suddenly, her phone is face down, her texts are guarded, her smile is reserved for someone else. And when he finally notices something is off, she pulls away even harder. Not because she doesn't care, but because she doesn't want to be stopped. Not yet. Not when someone finally sees her. Not when, for the first time in years, she feels like a woman again instead of just a wife, a mother, a scheduler, a roommate. And the saddest part? Her husband has no idea. He's still focused on solving surface problems, why she's moody, why she's distant, why she's not initiating intimacy, while the real problem is emotional starvation, and someone else is already feeding her. But the danger escalates the moment she starts doing something even more destructive: comparing. Because when you compare a man who only sees your highlight reel to a man who's weathered years of your flaws, fatigue, and fights, the new guy will always look better. But he's not better. He's just new. He's a fantasy that hasn't yet faced the friction of reality. And that fantasy becomes her escape route, not because she wants to leave her marriage, but because she wants to leave the feeling of being unloved. And when emotional connection becomes her oxygen, she'll do anything to keep breathing it, even if it means setting fire to everything else. But here's the turning point. Emotional affairs rarely stay emotional, because emotional energy is sexual energy in disguise. And once the barrier of secrecy is broken, the next step isn't a leap, it's a slide. And it happens faster than anyone expects. But before we get there, we need to explore the most dangerous stage of all, the one most men never see coming. It's not when she pulls away, it's when she suddenly becomes happy again. Because the moment she starts acting like herself again, the moment she smiles more, laughs more, dresses up again, it's not always a sign that she's falling back in love with her husband. Sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes it means someone else has already filled that void. And now she's not emotionally starved, she's emotionally full, but not from him. And that's when the physical part finally happens. Not out of lust, but out of emotional inevitability.